1,000 welcomes from your host, Bronin. Welcome to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I've got a big show today. We're going to talk about bums. We're also going to talk about some vandalism in the Oak Lawn neighborhood and some big news out of Dart. Somebody is stepping down. Before we dive into it, please, if you haven't already, I'd appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and download the Real Texas Radio Podcast from wherever you stream. I'm on all of the platforms. And follow the show on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right now, you're listening to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Bronin, just a fed-up taxpayer bringing you all of your Texas, local, and national news. We haven't done bum stories in a while, but boy, are there a lot of bums out there around Dallas and really around my neighborhood. So I think it's time for some bum stories.
Your story's sad to tell, a ne'er-do-well, most mixed up, delinquent on the block.
And I'm going to start off. Last week, my husband and I, we went for dinner down in North Oak Cliff. We went to go get some tacos. And we sat outside. It was just a fast casual place. We hadn't been there in a while. I didn't feel like cooking. And we're sitting, eating tacos, and we're right across the street from a gas station, and we're pretty close to the on-ramp and the exit to Interstate 30. So obviously there's an encampment and a bunch of homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist, reprobates lurking around. And next thing you know, one appears out of nowhere. I guess he came out of the gas station or the bushes or blew in from hell or somewhere. He looked like he was plucked out of a shanty town. And he looked like he walked off the set of Captain Phillips. And he could have been pirate number 17. That's what he looked like, I'm telling you. He had the jail slippers on. And he stands, we're sitting by the door. And there's hardly anybody left. It's kind of close to closing time. We had a late dinner. And he's just standing there. And then he starts doing shadow boxing. He's trying to get my attention. And he's just shadow boxing behind my husband. So, you know, I always have my guard up anyway whenever I'm in public. Because these bums, they're just everywhere. And they're psychotic and they're out of control. And so, you know, I'm prepared. If something's going to happen, I'm prepared. But you want to avoid it at all costs because, well, just look what happened to Daniel Penny in New York when he tried to protect all of the immigrants, all of the actual mothers and children on the subway car who the homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist, reprobate who'd been arrested almost 50 times and was known to every single police officer in New York City just about. And then he's threatening everybody in the subway car. And Daniel Penny stands up to this piece of human garbage and he dies. And then the fat Alan Bragg DA couldn't wait to punish Daniel Penny. Thank God the jury made the right decision there and let him out. But the hell and the money and the foolishness he had to go through. So you don't want to get in to any kind of a scuffle with these people because, you know, the DA is going to look at, you know, somebody like me, somebody who's got a skin tone that resembles Daniel Penny's, shall we say, and then they're going to look at in this case, the guy who looks like he got plucked out of the third world. And, you know, who's going to get in trouble? Who is the law going to side with, do you think, in that situation? Do we need to look back to recent Dallas examples, what happens to these people? They set them up with a lawyer, a public defender, who is associated with the mental health unit, and they just get him out of jail and back onto the streets. So then he goes into the taco shop, and I don't know what he said to them. Probably something along the lines of, and then harass them for a little bit. So then he comes out a few minutes later, and he's trying to stare me down again, and he eventually just went away. But perfect candidate for Crack Island. He should be on Crack Island, 100%. And I mean, he looks like somebody, to cite another Tom Hanks movie, Castaway. His outfit looked like he'd been living on an island or something for the past few years. Yeah, I suppose he went back to the corner store, the gas station, the bushes, from wherever the hell. And then, this was just earlier this week. I was just walking back from the gym, and I see this guy. I see this guy all the time. He looks like Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black, if you recall that show. He's basically, he could be her stunt double. And I see him pulling stunts all the time. Usually the shadow boxing thing. I don't know what it is with the homeless and the shadow boxing, but he'll be doing that. I don't know if I've ever heard him speak. I think I've seen his mugshot, though. I'm not going to say his name, but are you shocked that he's got a record? That really shocking, right? And I'll see him kicking a hubcap around the street, or there are like rocks that are kind of like a barrier for the dirt or near the supermarket. It's supposed to be kind of like a garden feature, I guess. And I'll see him kicking all of those rocks, pretty big rocks, onto the sidewalk. And, or, you know, if he sees one of those Lime scooters, he'll just flip that over. I've seen him do all of that. Well, so I'm walking, and I see him on the sidewalk. He's middle of the sidewalk, a narrow sidewalk, and he's just laying down asleep. It looks like his phone was on. I don't know. I couldn't even tell if he was breathing. And you know what? You want me to be completely honest? I wasn't feeling like very much of a Christian. He did not imbue any Christian empathy or sympathy from me. So I don't know. He wasn't there today. I walked by again. I thought about, should I call 911? Again, I don't want to make any physical contact with this person because, you know, he might open his eyes and see me as a demon, think that I'm a demon or something like that. Next thing you know, you have a problem on your hands. I'm sure the police and the ambulance and all that taxpayer-funded services, I'm sure they love when they get a call and it's him, whoever he is. But so many bums. I went to Total Wine today, and I went in and got a bottle of wine. And sitting outside of Total Wine, on the side of the building, there's another bum just sitting there like a loser. In the median, again, I have to cross a pretty big thoroughfare to get to my gym. I go most days, and there's a chair in the median. It's been there. There's so many bums. There'll be a guy with a walker, and it's got one of the seats in it, so he sits in the walker. When it's too tiresome to beg people for drug money, he's got a chair there. It's too exhausting, I guess, too much of an effort. And I don't even know where the guy lives, or I assume he takes the Dart up there, and so that way he can panhandle in the median. So then there's a chair, and I was walking to the gym, and there's a white, fairly young woman, certainly working age woman, sitting in the chair. There's a metal chair. Next time I go by and it's vacant, I'm gonna bring it over to one of the thrift stores here in the neighborhood. It's a big problem. How long do you think it'll be before one of these homeless, junkie bum, criminal vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist reprobates drags another chair that they probably stole from somebody's porch, and put it back in the median? So there's a woman there when I go into the gym, and that must have been too taxing for her to have to sit down and beg for drug money. So on the way out, there's a white guy, certainly working age. He's sitting in the chair, holding up a sign. you know what? Crack Island cannot open fast enough. And obviously, we know these bleep bums flock to the good weather. So, this is great weather to be a bum. So that's why I propose, I think quite generously, even though they don't deserve a penny more of generosity from anybody, Crack Island will be temperate. It will have nice weather. And you can shadow box and you can kick around hubcaps and you can lay up against the side of the wall or you can sit in a chair and hold up a sign. There will be virtually no difference in their lives whatsoever. But for all of the rest of us, our quality of life and the quality of life of all our taxpayer funded civil servants, police, fire, ambulance, county hospital workers, everybody else, their quality of life will dramatically increase for sure. Last week I went to an appointment and I took the bus, and I take it occasionally, but the bus, this route, it's kind of door to door. I have to walk a few blocks to get to where I'm going, and it's somewhat reliable. Whatever, it was reliable the other day, but on the way back from the appointment, I'm waiting at the bus stop, and there's a bum just sitting there, and you don't want to make any assumptions, but anyway, the bus comes, I get on the bus, he does not, just sits there, just stinking up the bus cabin, as they do. And, in Austin, one of the Austin watchdog accounts that I follow, recently they've had like 7 stabbings on the Austin bus system. I don't know all the details, but apparently they give the homeless free bus passes, or not like they even check the bums here, they just let them all on. Get them the hell out of my country. I don't care and I know they're all native born, the vast majority of them, but we got to open Crack Island and just get these people gone, these dregs of society, these problems, and these dangerous threats to all of us. All right, I think that's it on the bums for today. I'm sure I'll have more bum stories. You know what? I went by the Oak Lawn Library, pretty close, and there was like, I don't know if maybe not a full blown encampment, but it looked like a bunch of teenagers would be hanging on the street corner. Except this was a bunch of adult men and some women who I'm sure. I won't even speculate, but it could have been 8 or 10 of them, and I saw more bums coming, so they put up the bat signal, where of course they all have cell phones, and they try to find where there's electrical outlets on the exterior of buildings, or I don't know if there's one over there by the library, probably so, or they're connecting to the Wi-Fi for free. And you know what? Can you just imagine being an adult and that's what you do? You report to the sidewalk, and with all of your other homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist reprobates of all adults. None of you have a job. None of you have a dollar to your name. Or I suppose a lot of them get crazy checks. And obviously they don't have to pay for the DART, or they don't have to pay for the hospital. But I'm so sick of it, as I'm sure you are as well. Okay, let's keep it moving. I want to talk about DART. There's been some news in the last couple of days. The DART CEO, Nadine Lee, who has been in the position for approximately 5 years, has announced that she will not be seeking to renew her contract, which I believe expires later this year. And you know what, 5 years, that's a long time for anybody to be in a job these days, especially one that gets a lot of scrutiny. And how I learned about Nadine Lee's resignation first, I think D Magazine, I think they were the first to publish that. There's a writer there, a journalist, Bethany Erickson, Yeah, she's obviously a big lefty, but she's obviously got some contacts in the city, and she does get a lot of news. So she's worth keeping an eye on. So she writes this column on Nadine Lee and all of the DART drama that has occurred over the last several months, particularly how half of the member cities essentially called for withdrawal elections because they were so displeased with how DART is being mismanaged in comparison to how much money they are sinking into DART. And so she writes this whole column, and it looks like she got some quotes from Nadine Lee. I don't know if she interviewed her. And Nadine Lee, oh, well, I'm going to take a break after this. And, colleagues in my industry, they all recommend after you do 5 years in a stint like this where you're making, $400,000 a year, you got to take a break. So I don't know what I'm going to do after this. So basically a big puff piece, right? And you know what word is absent from the entire article? You know what word is conspicuously absent? I don't even know how you can write an article about DART, particularly in the last 5 years, without mentioning this. Crime. How about all the murders that have happened at DART stations in just the last few months by homeless, junkie, bum, criminal vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist reprobates? Some of the murders happening very close to DART headquarters. No, gave that a leave and alone. All of these Democrats, they love to talk about the wonders of DART and how it's just uplifting the poor and it's this treasure. And in the rare moments where they inject the discussion of crime, they're compelled to. They run away from it as quickly as possible. Oh, well, there's crime everywhere. Crime's everywhere. Okay, well, it seems to really be a problem on the DART, but I digress. So then, this article, there was one paragraph that I wanted to read. Let me see if I can find it. And, in February, the improbable happened. This is in respect to all of the drama. Half of the DART member cities wanted to withdraw. Thanks to a great deal of persuasion and flexibility, DART struck a deal that prompted 3 cities, Plano, Irving, and Farmers Branch, to cancel those elections. And it's kind of in the passive voice. It doesn't say that Nadine Lee was responsible, or it doesn't say the DART board, for example, but it completely mischaracterizes, from my perspective, what went on, particularly with Plano. These member cities, they persuaded DART to restructure, to change the governance on the board, and to get DART to agree to return some of the sales tax money that funds the DART. It was the cities that did this. They said, you serve us. We pay you. We are not happy with this. So we're going to put it to our voters. And 6 cities or 7 cities, they came together and they did this. And that forced DART. That was the persuasive tactic that forced DART to get flexible. Because prior to that, DART was not flexible. Prior to that, DART said absolutely not. We are not returning any money from the sales tax to you. We are not going to consider revising our governance structure and our pay model that was established 40 years ago or so. We're not open to that. So it was the cities that compelled this change. And you know what? Dallas obviously was never going to consider withdrawing from DART. I'm not saying that we should, but now I'm just reading that over the next 6 years, DART is expected to get a return of over $200 million in sales tax revenue. Now, Dallas spends $450 million bucks a year on DART. So it's, 1/8, basically, 1/9 of, I think they calculated about 10% of the whatever. It's something. It's $200 million more dollars that we will be getting back from DART than what would have happened prior to this deal. And Dart really has these other suburban cities to thank for that, I would say. So that's the latest on Dart. There are still 3 cities that are going to vote to exit Dart. I think the Addison probably stands to lose the most because they've got a light rail stop now, a brand new light rail stop just opened in October, and now they're going to vote to basically not to demolish the light rail stop. That's going to be a direct line to DFW Airport, but the train will just pass right through it. It's just going to blow through Addison every day, however many times a day, and not stop there. And Addison is not going to get any money back from DART. In fact, they're going to have to continue to pay DART until that Silver Line construction debt is paid off. So that's what's going on with DART. And I'll talk a little bit about the Dallas City Council meeting. It wasn't really that exciting today. Of course, Adam Basildua, who he was kind of on a streak. He was on a good streak there for a little bit, and then he just blew it. He had to remind us that today, or pardon me, March 31st. March 31st is, well, in addition to my husband's birthday, it's the Trans Day of Visibility.
Member for the City of Dallas, and on behalf of the Dallas City Council, do hereby recognize March 31st, 2026 as International Transgender Day of Visibility. I'd like to invite all of my colleagues to join us next Tuesday, March 31st at 12 p.m. in the Flag Room. We will be hosting a press conference to commemorate International Transgender Day of Visibility. This is an important opportunity to recognize and uplift transgender members of our community. As a city, it is our responsibility.
Okay, that's enough of that. Well, I'm sure that the whole city council, they are going to be scrambling to get a seat in the Flag Room for the Trans Day of Visibility Remembrance.
You think you're afraid of Trump? You should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Thank you. So while we're on the subject of trans, you may have seen that earlier this week, I think on Monday, Dallas, they had to come into compliance with state law and remove all of the decorative or ideological crosswalks throughout the city. And apparently there's something like 30 of them, which I kind of find hard to believe. But I live in the neighborhood that's got all the rainbow crosswalks, which I don't really care about, especially when... I mean, they don't bother me. If you want me to be honest, I know they bother some people. That's fine. I think the people who they bother the most don't live in the neighborhood. But the part where I could understand being bothered, even if you don't live in the neighborhood, but you're a Dallas taxpayer, is the cost. But apparently, to fund those crosswalks, they had to get private funds. So at least that. Then I'm really okay with it. And then in District 7... Adam Basildua, Mr. Trans Day of Visibility, he has a lot of the Black Lives Matter crosswalks. I don't even know where those are. I've never seen them. So those had to go too. And in Uptown, near a school, or right in front of a school, there was just kind of an artsy-fartsy, I don't even know what was going on there, crosswalk. That had to go. So this person who identifies as a queer, this person, that's how he identifies. Well, at 3:30 in the morning, I think this would have been heading into Tuesday. Well, he takes a Waymo, one of those autonomous Ubers. He takes a Waymo to Oak Lawn. He doesn't live in Oak Lawn, apparently. It's not even clear that he lives in Dallas. I think they may have updated the article, the Dallas Morning News, and I could have sworn when I read it last night, it was published at 5:49 on Tuesday. All right, 5:49 on March 24th. I thought the original version said that he lived in Carrollton. So Carrollton, depending on where you live in Carrollton, that it's not even Dallas County. So he doesn't live here. And the Dallas Morning News, they put out this puff piece on him, right? He got arrested at 3:30 in the morning. The police approach him. He's spray painting the crosswalks that were just removed. He's going to replace the rainbow crosswalks with spray paint, right? And they have pictures. The Dallas Morning News, I tweeted it out at RTR underscore Bronin, RTR underscore Bronin. I mean, he just made a mess of it. And you know what he did? So Oaklawn Avenue has actually been under construction, different sections of it for many months, and really upgrading it, like street repair, right? The things that us taxpayers we really care about. And as part of the resurfacing, and they're using concrete and not asphalt, the city is installing these brick crosswalks, and there's no paint with them. They're just red brick. And it looks fine. I think it looks fine. I still would be very careful crossing Oaklawn Avenue, most parts of it, no matter where I am. But whoever was responsible for painting the rainbow crosswalks, they did it a few years ago, and then the paint all faded. So when the crosswalks were repainted, I don't even know, I would say over a year ago, could have been a year and a half. Not all of the crosswalks were repainted. They consolidated. So this guy, his name is Mason Whiteside. Oh, it does say it right under the picture, of Carrollton. I wasn't making that up. From Carrollton. So the Dallas Morning News photographer, obviously, he was giving him a tour of his graffiti, and he spray painted this, and forget about art. He just, like a squiggly line of spray paint on the brand new brick crosswalk that was just installed by the city in the last week. And do you know who was responsible? Obviously, the city of Dallas, for installing the brick pathways to cross the street. All the workers, they're all Hispanic. You know what? I don't know about immigration status, but I walk by them all the time. You know what? I don't care. I don't care what they're doing. They're repairing the street. They're beautifying the neighborhood. Great. I don't care who is doing it. I wish we could convince some of these bums to earn their keep and do something, but you couldn't trust them to do anything. If you gave them a broom, they wouldn't be able to sweep. So you can't have them anywhere near anything productive. But this particular crosswalk, it hasn't been a rainbow in over a year. But this idiot, Mason Whiteside, this moron, he just defiled it with graffiti, and it's not even a week old. What a doofus. So he gets arrested. He ends up in, I think originally Lou Sterrett, the Dallas County Jail. And he was there until 10:35 in the morning. This is all, I'm sourcing it from the Dallas Morning News article. He had to pay almost $1,000. I'm shocked they made him pay anything. And then they found out that he had a speeding ticket from a few years ago, and he did not go to court. He was supposed to go to court for the ticket, and he decided no, he wasn't going to do that. I don't know. He's special, I guess. He doesn't have to follow the law. And so then they brought him up to Farmers Branch, which is right next to Carrollton, I guess, to deal with that ticket. But you know what I just find crazy? You may have heard there was another item in the news that the Republicans, they may be having some kind of GOP midterm convention this summer. And one of the sites they looked at apparently last month was the American Airlines Center right here in Dallas, obviously where the Mavs play and the Stars play, a month ago. And this has just been coming out. We just have learned this in the news. I think the Dallas Morning News has an article. The Dallas Morning News doesn't know about that we might be hosting the GOP midterm convention this summer, which Trump would attend, presumably, the President of the United States. A month it took them to figure that one out. But this vandal, who was arrested at 3:30 in the morning and didn't get out of jail until 10:35 in the morning, not even 7 hours later, they have a full spread on this guy. They publish a full spread, photos, and these are daytime photos. Although I suppose, 5 o'clock, it's still bright out now, thank God, in Texas. But it's like, what did they know about it? Did they get a tip-off that he was going to be vandalizing the sidewalks? And what does he think he really did? Other than now somebody A taxpayer-funded civil servant is going to have to come out, a crew, and clean up his mess. I hope he gets a fine for this. And that's really all I just wanted to say about that. I was so annoyed by that, and I as a member of the gay community, so I don't mean to sound like I'm hesitating as I'm saying that. I'm out of the closet, but just when you see people doing such embarrassing things.
I don't even know how many letters there are now. They really got to stop with that. We know what you mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough rainbows around the neighborhood, and there's already an official state marker that's right in the corner there of Throckmorton and Cedar Springs. And, anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. And I think it's probably a good time to wrap it up. I really don't have much to say about the city council. It got a little bit weird. The council member Maxie Johnson, he threw a bit of a nutter, getting into a public feud with the Parks Department, and then some of the weak sisters, Laurie Blair and Kathy Stewart, tried to turn it into a group therapy session and talking about mitigation and healing and all this.
I did my mental health leave in 2023. I was inpatient for anxiety and depression for 8 weeks. I've been very public about that. And since I returned, I've been doing my group therapy on Thursdays from 3 to 4:30.
Yeah, I thought that I was in Harris County, actually, for a few minutes. I thought that I was like, whoa, is this the Harris County Commissioner's Court? Where is mental patient Lena Hidalgo? This is the kind of thing that goes on in Harris County. So then, and what they were fighting about the zoo, apparently they were approving a budget item so that way the zoo they're expanding, or they're creating some safari trail. It's going to take a year. I really don't know anything about it. But you know what the ironic thing was? So they're all fighting about this. Oh, we're gonna delay this spending. I want to delay it for a month because I'm so mad at the Parks Department. They won't call me. I'm trying to get my questions answered. I've never had this kind of disrespect ever in my life. And it was kind of wild. And you know what the irony is? Kara Mendelsohn, right, who is like the budget queen. She starts talking, and most of the rest of the council, they roll their eyes because the staff, I'm sure she drives them crazy because she's going to ask them all these questions about a budget item. And so then you know what she says? It was kind of hilarious. She was really brief, and she goes, "Wait, are we talking about $90,000?" And the staff were like, "Yeah." And she was like, Why is this item even before us? I mean, the staff has approval over, I don't know what the threshold is, but anything under like $100,000 or $200,000, they can just approve it. The only reason they needed to bring it to council was because it was for a multi-year agreement. But she was like, can we just move on? $90,000? And you know what the other irony is? There's so few around the horseshoe. They can talk all day long about trans visibility and making sure people are seen and heard and uplifting the community. And, oh, we don't have a grocery store. They can drone on and on about all of that crap. But you know what? I don't think I heard a peep out of Maxie Johnson about any of the other budget items. Millions of dollars the council was approving over the course of the meeting. Not a peep. No, nothing. Items of much more significant consequence than this zoo item, and which actually it looks like might improve the zoo and make it more attractive and make it more financially independent, because the city is supporting it heavily to the tune of, I think, maybe in the $10 million neighborhood or even more. The city's trying to get that monkey off its back, no pun intended. So that was really the goings on at the city council of note. I didn't even really pull many cuts. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I think this is a good place to end. But I am Bronin. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. Please give the show a like, follow, download a few episodes. It really helps promote this independent operation, and I will catch you on the next episode.